Beauty and Brains presents A Work in Progress, your favorite weekly podcast all about navigating adulthood and adversity with transparency and vulnerability. Here, we highlight progress over perfection. You're listening to my personal and professional development diary, where I share the highs and lows and the real and raw parts of the story that no one talks about. I'm your host, Brelynn Hunt, A Work in Progress. Dear friend, I hope all is well with you and that you are as healthy in body as you are sound in mind and strong in spirit. Welcome back. Welcome back to A Work in Progress, the podcast. I'm back for another episode. It's been a long time since we've talked and a lot of things have gone down. So we're going to get into some things today as I catch you guys up. First thing, there's so many things we have to get into. Relax, grab a snack. It's Kiki time. Okay, set the mood. Go ahead, light a candle. You know when you haven't talked to your best friend in a long time and y'all meet up or you get on FaceTime and you get comfy because you know that you about to get all the tea. You about to get all the tea. Like, that's what this convo is. So, bestie, buckle up. Let me know down below in the comments, how have y'all been doing? How are you? Are you okay? I would love to do a live podcast with you guys, and maybe I will one day. Very Sarah Jakes Roberts style, so that I can kiki with you guys in real time. I would love to see your comments and be able to talk, and we're gonna do that one day. Work in progress live. But anyway, let me know if you would enjoy that. Let me know how you are doing in the comments down below. And if you are listening to the pod, shout out to the audio listeners. If you're looking, you're probably like, something's off, something's not right. And if you're listening, you have no idea. But we are doing this podcast webcam style. What? This is a first. And we're going to get into why this podcast is being filmed on my webcam, on my bed, instead of my usual spot. So let's just get into it because we cannot have this podcast be too long. I want you guys to actually click on this video. And I know when they're super long, y'all are like, look, I don't got the time for it. So I missed you guys. I can't wait to get into it. Welcome back to Work in Progress. Okay, so what the heck have I been up to since we've last talked? Sheesh. It's been a lot. So let's go ahead and do this timeline style. I have my notes over here to the side. So again, if you're looking and I'm like looking a little cockeyed, it's because I'm trying to read my notes over here. So I'm going to go through my calendar and just kind of go through everything that I've been through these last couple of months. Some things I'll have to make a separate video about because you'll want to hear all of the tea. And I just want I need to give y'all some of the tea, but I can't give you all of the tea of all of the tea in this one sitting. We'll be here all day. So my makeup looks really cute today. Okay, I did something a little bit different. It's anyway. Okay, first things first. And oh my God, I just got nervous. Okay. Let me calm down. I want to put on the fan, but the fan is right above me, so I know it'll make a lot of noise. But I just started to sweat. I get so nervous when I talk about stuff sometimes. So first things first, I quit my job. I quit my job in February. It's, by the time y'all are watching this, it's probably June or the last day in May. Lord have mercy. It feels good to finally let that out, to catch you guys up. Okay, I think the next pod that I'm going to do, I'm going to give you guys all the tea. I promise. I pinky promise. But yes, child. The first job that I ever put in my proper 2 weeks, and not just oh, I'm moving, or oh, I've graduated, or but because of toxic workplace environment. So stay tuned. But just know that was really weighing on me for months. I was talking about my job and I was I hate my job. It went from I'm stressed. It was but I'm going to walk you guys through it and how I ended up making that decision, because it was a very hard decision for me to make. And then the adjustment afterwards. But yeah, I was so unhappy And I felt like that was very unhealthy for me to be so unhappy for work. But I felt guilty because that was a job that I wanted for a long time. Like, that's what I prayed for. Like, I kept saying that to myself. Like, this is a job that I prayed for. And I just really wanted it to be, I wanted that season to end with me getting into medical school. I wanted to leave that job and to go into medical school. And I don't think that's going to be the case. And when I had to kind of like come to that realization, I was like, I can't be here for another year if I have to do another year or more before getting into medical school. So I felt very ungrateful quitting because I felt like, again, it was something that I prayed for. And again, I was also very uncomfortable leaving a job not on the best terms. I would have rather have left like, thank you so much for teaching me everything I need to know. And now I'm on my way to medical school to be the next OBGYN and I'm going to pay it forward. But it just, I didn't feel like I completed my goal there, but I also felt like I wouldn't really ever be able to, and that I needed to move on, like, for my sanity. So it was really hard because the plan that I had for myself, again, which was to leave once I was matriculating in medical school, it didn't happen. And I quit with sort of like a backup option in place, and then that actually ended up falling through. So I was unemployed for about a month and a half. And so I'll go into more detail about that in the next pod. I promise. Please don't kill me. But I want to be able to like really talk it through with you guys. But that happened in like February/March. I filmed a pod right around that time, but that was also like directly after my grandmother's funeral. And also when I gave up my title as Miss Wash Co. So I was focusing on like other things. And, no, I filmed a podcast. The last podcast that I filmed was actually right around that time. I probably was unemployed when I filmed the last podcast episode that you guys saw. And then like the next week I also filmed one. But like in between, it just no longer felt relevant. It was kind of talking about how I feel with social media now. And I may upload it, but even my thoughts have changed since I posted that. I think I'm still in a weird place with social media. So for me to have posted that, I just felt like, yeah, I just didn't end up posting it because I didn't feel the same way a week later. And now a month or 2 months later, I still don't feel the same. So it may never see the light of day, or maybe I'll do like a reacting to an old podcast that you guys have never heard, and I'll interject and say how I do feel. I don't know. Who knows? You guys know I don't like to create and dump, but yeah, that was around that same time. So the last time I really sat down to film a pod was around that time. And yeah, you guys saw one of them, but you didn't see the other. Now, I'm blessed to say that the season of unemployment was almost like too short because I had so much rest to catch up on and just other things in life that it flew by. It flew by way too fast. I'm over here like, dang, like, did I really take advantage of that time? I did the best that I could, but I definitely was, I'm still tired. Like, I don't feel like I really had a moment to rest like you would assume that I would have. So the first week of unemployment, or I don't know why I did air quotes. I was unemployed. My first week of unemployment, I had 3 job interviews, and I also had an interview for a special master's program. So let's talk about that. So at this time, and again, we're going down the timeline. So at this point, it's March. So I put in my leave of absence. No, I quit. I quit on February 15th. And again, I just want to tell you guys now, but I'll go into more detail about that then. I quit February 15th. And so this was like, my last day was March 1st. So this is the first week of March that we're talking about. At this time, I still had a good amount of applications out there, but I was prepping for my plan D at this point, which I hate to say, but I was prepping for plan D as in dog, for those of you guys who are listening, which was to do a real post-bac at a school that I would really want to go to in a city that I wouldn't mind living in order to help me improve my MCAT and my GPA stats before reapplying. And this was really difficult, and this is still difficult for me because there aren't many programs that I personally want to go to that have like that actual linkage. That's an actual linkage program. That's an actual post-bac. But Morehouse School of Medicine did. and it was my top choice. And honestly, I didn't really say this out loud to you guys, but when I started applying to medical schools, I was like, I'm really starting to feel like I'd rather be at Morehouse School of Medicine as my top choice instead of Howard. I love Howard, but I don't know. I'm at this really weird place where, and I think I talked about this in the pod where I talked about grief, where I was like, I wanted to like build a network here in the DMV area. I wanted to be here where my family was instead of like being all the way in Georgia, like out there by myself. But I think I just never was able to fully take advantage of the network that I do have, being a Spelman graduate, like knowing people, just the connections, just everything going on in Atlanta. And I feel like I don't know anybody here. Like my best friend from high school / middle school, like she no longer lives in the state. Britt moved back to Alabama, by the way. So there was a period of time where she was here, but then she moved. And then like, Jasmine, my friend from college, like she is deployed in Hawaii now. So I have really one friend from high school, two-ishly, like 2.5 that I keep up with. I have like 2 friends for my job, but like I wouldn't say I have no friends. I know there's people who have no friends, but I feel like I have like no friends here. And to have friends, but then also like just community, like people who will just show up for you, show out. Like if I were to like throw a birthday dinner, it would be a very small gathering, and it's okay. You don't necessarily need a lot of people, but I also am a person where I do have a lot of friends, like I do have a lot of connections. So it sucks to be like, oh, I have like this group of people who I'm still cool with in North Carolina, and these people in Georgia, and then some of those people are like out in California, and then some of them are in New York. It's like I just have people all over, and I really wanted to put my feet in and really like make connections here in the DMV. But then when I was while being here, I'm like, I don't even know if I like this place enough to make my connections here. Like, do I even want to live here forever? Now that my grandmother has passed, I'm like, I don't want to. I want to go. So I was really like, I'm trying to go back to Atlanta. And when I tell you guys, I was manifesting it. I was like, I'm going back to Atlanta. I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here. Morehouse School of Medicine, they have this Masters of Medical Science program. And that interview was on the 8th. And I was like, okay, if it goes well, I'm just waiting for a response. So the same week, I'm interviewing for jobs that just honestly pay better, because that was one of the main reasons. There were so many things wrong with my old job, but one of them was that I wasn't paid well. So it was really hard to do all the work that I was doing and then also like not have enough free time and then also not make enough money. So I'm like, if I have to get a new job, I want those issues resolved. So I want a job where I have more free time. I don't want to have to like work as much. I don't want to have to work as hard, and I want to make more money. I'm asking for a lot, I know. I wanted to do research, and I felt comfortable quitting my job because I had a research job offer on the table. It ended up falling through, and then that's when I ended up having to interview for other jobs. And I like going through, it was really weird how it happened. It's like basically a temp company reached out to me through LinkedIn and was like, hey, if you're looking for medical assistant jobs, like I can search for them for you. So I got my job, which is another medical assistant job now. Spoiler alert. I didn't want to do it, but I ended up interviewing at more, like at first I was interviewing for receptionist jobs, like medical receptionist, because I was like, I'm trying to chill. I'm tired of being on my feet. I'm tired to run around. I'm tired of it. Like I just want to sit on a computer all day, clock in, clock out, and leave. I'm tired of the overtime. Like I'm tired of it. I've done my job. Like I've done my clinical experience work. Like I'm ready to just chill. And the medical receptionist jobs were interesting because every time I would go to an interview, they were kind of like, oh my gosh, you're a master of physiology. You have this year, why don't you try and do like our medical assistant position? Why don't you And I'd be like, oh, I don't want to. I don't want to do it anymore. Like y'all are literally paying more for me to sit on my butt. I'd rather do that. Not to say that medical receptionists sit on their butt all day. Like it's definitely, but it's a different type of work. Front of house, back of house are just 2 different jobs. And I was like, I want to do more administrative work. I'd rather be brain dead at the end of the day than like physically tired to where I can't do anything. That's just how I personally felt. I wanted to make that switch. But the jobs just ended up like just switching, like going into, because here's the problem. I would do an interview and the interviewer would be like, how do you deal with stress? And what do you do when, there's workplace drama? And how would you handle situations? I'd be like, this sounds like stress. This sounds like stress. Red flags, like any red flags. And I would tell the person who was, like getting my interviews for me, my temp agent, I was like, no, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Like, and I was getting job offers left and right. And then there were some locations where I was like, okay, you know what? This sounds promising. Doesn't seem too much. Yes, I'll accept the offer. And then the people they went with somebody else, or they didn't give you the job. And I was like, what the heck? So it was like I said, about a month where I was going back and forth and I was interviewing, but the places I liked didn't like me, and the places that I didn't like, they liked me. But like I said, I was very intentional about not repeating an overworked, toxic environment. I wanted more money. I wanted less work. And overall, I was like, this is going to be temporary. Like, I plan on being somewhere else in at least 6 months, whether that be in medical school, whether that be in a master's program. Like, I'm not going to be at this job forever. I just need some money coming in where I'm not stressed out and I can do other things at the same time. So that ended up landing me with my current job, which is cool. And I will give you guys more detail about that in the next video. But the thing is that when I got that job offer, my start date was 3 weeks out, and I had to get shots and testing and stuff like that. So I still had a good amount of time to focus on other things. Now, in the meantime, while this is going on, mid-March, I also start preparing for local pageant seasons. So once I found out that I was able to compete again in the Miss America system because they changed the age limit, it took me a while to officially decide that I was going to do it because I wanted confirmation from God. And I kept telling myself, if I do it, I'm going to change my social impact initiative. Instead of it being B Squared, which is empowering through beauty and brains, which is like a mentorship program. Although I feel like mentorship is super important and I will always be beauty and brains, I definitely felt like a lot of people do mentorship and it doesn't necessarily make me special, even though it's coming from this perspective of this relationship that we have here on social media, and that I really wanted to utilize the platform that Miss America has and really start building out my advocacy as a maternal health advocate. Because I've said this before, I know exactly why I want to go into medicine. I know the population that I want to serve, the people that I want to help, the statistics that I want to change. And I think that just being in this season of waiting and uncertainty, I kind of felt like, should I be waiting until I'm a doctor to live out my purpose? If I really feel like this is my calling, there has to be something that I can do here and now in order to be living out my calling. And so I decided, or I recognized, that I could use the Miss America organization to do so. And so I created my new social impact initiative. As I was solidifying those ideas and the events that I would do, the network that I would need to have, I basically just started then booking locations for my walk. If you guys don't know, by the time you're listening to this, you could possibly still make it. If not, definitely donate as a part of my social impact initiative, which is called Insert Name Here, the education and the advocacy for the maternal health crisis. I am organizing my own 5K March for Babies. So I'm partnering with March of Dimes because they are leaders in making sure that moms and babies get a healthy start to life. They raise a lot of funds that go towards research grants for the maternal mortality crisis. So I'm partnering with them to raise additional funds as a part of my advocacy. But even that, starting that partnership, working with them, I was taking meetings, rehearsing my talent, going to ballet classes every day. I was getting things together, like I said, for my new job, doctor's appointments. Some days I rested, but honestly, March was still a very busy season for me. I really miss going to ballet classes every day. I was in my grind era, and I was doing meetings and stuff. It was a lot going on, even though I wasn't working and I really wasn't posting like that. But that's what you guys kind of missed. And so now let's talk local pageant season, because the moral of the story here, and for the past few months, is that things did not go according to my expectations, or rather the perfect plan. What I expected to happen, what would be the best case scenario, did not happen. And it really stressed me out. It gave me a lot of anxiety. And I even experienced a lot of what I have recently heard of post-pageant depression because of the unexpected turns in the process. So let's talk about it. I chose to do Miss Frederick / Miss Central Maryland. Now, Miss Frederick is a local pageant here in the Miss Maryland organization that is normally closed to only girls who live, work, or go to school in Frederick, which is an area in Maryland, which I'm not in. Now, this year, they decided to open up a second title called Miss Central Maryland, and that was open to all, like, it was an open title. And so anybody and everybody could compete for that title, but only girls who were living, working, breathing in Frederick could compete for that title. So it's called like an open title versus a closed title. Miss Frederick was closed, Miss Central Maryland was opened, and both of them received $4,000 for scholarship money. Because if y'all don't know, Miss America is the largest organization that gives scholarships to young girls. So if you are needing money to go to school, the first runner-up in this pageant got $1,500 like for scholarships. That's a lot of money. Please hold. My foot fell asleep. Oh, that's this one thing about sitting on the bed like this. Okay. But yeah, so even the first runner up for the pageant got $1,500. So I knew it was going to be like super competitive, but I said, you know what, even if I lose, or even if I come in first runner up, I'll still probably make more money. I'll still win more scholarship money than I would probably win in any of the other pageants. And there's a lot of other reasons why I decided to do the Miss Frederick / Central Maryland pageant. One of them, like I said, was definitely the scholarship money. The other one was the guidance, because going into what is officially going to be my last year competing at Miss Maryland, I really feel like I understand like what I need to do, but there's just receiving the right guidance for you. It's really important for pageants in general, whether it be coaching, whether it be your director, whether it be your voice coach, your dance instructor. Like, you need other people to look and have eyes and tell you what you need. And then also just like the network. I feel like with me being in Southern Maryland, there aren't any pageants down here, and it's really hard just to like know what's going on, have network. Like I told you guys, sometimes I feel like I don't know people around here. I don't have people who I can call on to help me with things, or I just felt like this organization has been around for a really long time, and so they have a really great network, and they'd be able to provide me with a lot of guidance. Now, this pageant was a little bit different because they did 3 weekends of rehearsals before the actual competition. So the rehearsals were on Sundays from like 1 to 4, and I live an hour and a half away from Frederick, but I'm like, you know what, I'm not working, because I'm very particular about my Sundays, but I wasn't working during this time. So I was like, okay, no problem. What I did was I wanted to try out this new church that was in Columbia, Maryland, which is basically like 30 minutes away from Frederick. So every Sunday I would drive to Columbia, Maryland. I would go to church, and then I would drive 30 minutes down to Frederick, and then I would do rehearsal there for 4 hours, and then I would drive back down to Maryland. And I did that every Sunday for 3 Sundays in a row. And I didn't even mention how the last weekend, right before the last weekend rehearsal, like while rehearsing my talent and stuff, I pulled my hamstring. And the thing is that the entire experience was just different. There were a lot of like good things about it. Like I met a lot of great people. But overall, I ended up not placing at the pageant. And it started my spiral, because I was like, wait a minute. Hold on. How did I go from being top 5 at Miss Maryland to not winning a local pageant? For the past 2 years that I've competed at Miss Maryland, I've won the locals on the first try. So when I first joined the Miss Maryland organization, I won the title of Miss National Harbor. I went to that pageant and I won. And I was like, okay, cool. This is the one that I want to do. I won it. Let's start working for Miss Maryland. When I wanted to be Miss Washington County, same thing. I was like, okay, I want to do Miss Washington County. I won it. Let's go. This time I was like, okay, cool. This is the pageant that I want to do. Let me go ahead and put in the work. I go 3 weekends. And the thing about the 3 weekends, again, in comparison to the other titles, and I think that this is the only local that did this, going to rehearsals for 3 weeks in person before the actual pageant is a complete mind trip. Like, I don't think it was healthy for me. I rarely compare myself to anybody but myself, because it's a blessing and a curse, but I'm like sometimes so self-centered. I'm just worried about myself that I don't even have time to pay attention to other people. But because of the way that the director just had this pageant set up, like, we had to do everything. We did multiple like run-throughs of the show. It wasn't like just learn the opening number. Like, we gave them all of our paperwork. We did mock interviews. We showed our talent. We did our on-stage question and answers. We did our social impact pitches. We did our talents, like evening gowns, dresses, like full dress rehearsals multiple times. Like, you really couldn't, it was hard. You had to do more work to focus on yourself because of the way that she set up the pageant environment. It was easier to compare yourself, because every weekend you were seeing what other people were bringing to the table, instead of normally you're able to just come pageant weekend, like that Friday maybe you'll learn the opening number, Saturday you do your interview, Saturday night you perform, it's pageant. Like, you don't have time to think about anybody else. You don't have time. You're just there worrying about yourself. But 3 weeks, like, I would find myself being like, okay, I need to work on this. I need to do this. I need to do this. And these are things that I already needed to do for myself, like just preparing for local. But instead of it being me preparing like behind closed doors to myself, I had to like prepare in front of other people. I just didn't enjoy that part of the experience for me personally. And then to do all of that and be kind of like in my head the whole time, and it's like, you're overthinking it, you know, you are great, you're worthy, like, you got this, like, the crown is yours, blah, 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 blah. And then to not place, I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Like, what is going on? And after that pageant, I received some feedback that was very difficult for me, and it threw me off because I wasn't doing much different. I wasn't performing or competing that differently than how I was at States. So I was like upset, and I was perplexed, and I was regretful. I was like, why did I even come back and compete? Because what the heck? When I walked off the stage of Miss Maryland 2021, I was very proud of myself. I was happy with the way things went. I was like, you know what? I wasn't able to give my all, but from what I was able to give, I gave, and I still did well. I made top 5. To go from not placing to top 5 was great. You know, I was happy with it. I was very happy with Lydia winning. I was like, you know what? If ain't nobody gonna win, if I was gonna win, I'm glad my girl won. I'm like, I could have just left it at that. Nobody asked to be hurt in this way. I was like, wait a minute. I only came back because I'm like, well, if I have another chance to win, I'll gladly take that chance to win. But it didn't even cross my mind, like, what happens if you lose? And then to lose at a local, y'all, I was spiraling. I was spiraling. Like, what is going on? After that pageant, I started my new job the next day. Like, the pageant was on a Saturday. I spent the night at a hotel. Shout out to Kayla Willing because she ended up spending the night at the hotel with me. God bless her soul. I talked her ear off all night long because I was spiraling. I was like, oh my gosh, like, I've lost my touch. Monday, I start my new job, which, again, we'll talk about this next podcast. My new job is in Virginia. So I now have an hour and a half commute to work every day. So I'm starting work, training, which is like, training is cool because you're not really working, but you still have to like pay attention, and people are like watching you, and it's a lot of like introducing yourself to a lot of people, and hi, how are you, and and telling people your story, and it's like, it's still a lot of people energy, you know. And so for me to like come from the 2 days before, me being upset and perplexed and regretful, and I'm like, do I even want to compete again? Do I just want to be like, wait a minute, nope, this is a mistake, let me go ahead and put in my towel, thank you so much, MAO, but I don't really want to compete anymore? Or like, do I want to move forward with another local pageant so that I can become eligible to compete at Miss Maryland? So I'm training, I'm driving 3 hours a day, and I'm trying to prepare myself for these competitions. Here's a little bit of background to where the next obstacle ended up coming about. So for a Christmas gift, my mom gave me tickets to see Mean Girls on Broadway. And I was super excited about it because I mentioned it to her. It was really a great gift. I mentioned it to her in passing and she got me the gift like without me asking for it. And I feel like those are the best gifts. I've told you guys about how I'm not a fan of Christmas in general, but I'm really not a fan of gift giving. I suck at it. And I suck at receiving gifts. I don't really like to. And I also suck at giving gifts. So this was a gift that was given to me that I really enjoyed. And so it made Christmas just all the much better. So I was looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this since December. And this was the same weekend as competition number 3. So giving you, again, the rundown of just how Maryland works. This whole section is like pageant diaries. Basically, there were 4 local pageants this season for Miss Maryland. There were 4 chances that you had to win a title on stage in Maryland in order to be eligible to compete at Miss Maryland. There were a few appointed titles. Some were given like back in September and some were given like in April, where you didn't necessarily have to compete for them, but they were like, they were given out to girls who had either competed before or you did interviews. But unfortunately for me, I really wanted to compete on stage, wear my dress, interview with a panel, and be able to like just have the whole full experience. That way I was ready for Miss Maryland. And I knew like I was capable of competing at Miss Maryland again and doing well, especially with my new social impact initiative. I know I've done it before, but I'm like, things are different this time. Clearly, things are different this time. So there were 4 chances, and one of them was Miss Washington County / Western Maryland, where I was giving up my title. So I only had 3 chances to compete. The first one, after the one that I did, was Miss Frederick / Central Maryland, which I did and I didn't place. So now there's 2 competitions left in the season. The first one, at first I was like, I don't want to do it because, Mean Girls is that weekend. Like, this is a Christmas gift. I don't want to ask my mom to like, I want to go, so I can't go. It turns out that Mean Girls on Broadway was the same weekend as that 4th competition. So I had to do the competition. So I had to do competition number 3 or else I would run out of chances. So competition 1, I gave up my title. I'm not eligible to compete again. Competition 2, I compete. I don't place. This is competition number 3. Miss Montgomery County / Miss Southern Maryland / Miss Rockville. And this experience was honestly a blur. Like, my family wasn't able to attend, and it wasn't even 2 days, like in conjunction, like in contrast with the previous pageant where we practiced for 3 weeks and then we competed on the 4th weekend. This one, we did Zoom interviews the night before. I literally got my gown picked up from the dry cleaners the next day, and then I drove to Rockville to compete. And one of the big reasons why I competed was because one of my sister Queen Kayla, who we competed together at Miss Central Maryland / Miss Frederick, we had our sleepover, and she was like, hey, there's 8 girls competing next weekend. If you compete, you'll be the 9th. And if there's 9 girls competing, instead of giving away 2 titles, they'll give away 3. So you'll have more chances to win, because everybody was like, the main reason why you didn't win, or one of the big reasons why, is because one of the titles were closed and one of them was open. So because you didn't have enough chances, like you didn't really have a fair shot. Like you had to outscore too many people basically. And I'm like, no excuses. Like, I just need the best one. I need to be the best one on the stage. If I'm not the best, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter with the blah, blah, blah. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was true. Like there were a lot of stipulations in place to where it was harder for me to win than for me not to win. And so this pageant weekend, I was like, okay, I'll do it. They're giving away 3 titles. On stage, they ended up saying, like, we're giving away a 3rd title. They said it the night before, like during interviews, that this 3rd title is only open to newcomers only. So only if it's been like your first time competing in the Miss Maryland organization, or like if this was your first time coming from like teen to miss. So once again, it was like all these girls, 9 girls competing. Again, I was so focused on myself that I can't even tell you like the right numbers, but it was basically like, let's just say 4 girls who were eligible for Miss Montgomery County. I wasn't one of them because I don't live in that county, and that's another closed title. and there were maybe like 6 girls who were eligible for the Rockville title. I wasn't eligible for that one because I'm a returning competitor. So they competed for those titles. And then for Miss Southern Maryland, it was me and Kayla. We were the only 2 girls who were only eligible for that title. But everybody else, all 9 girls, were also eligible for that title as well. I hope it makes sense. It can be really confusing. And honestly, I love you, Miss Maryland, but it's really dumb. It's really dumb. So she ended up winning that title. I ended up winning first runner-up to Miss Southern Maryland. And again, the whole thing was just a blur because I felt like I did everything fine. I can't even remember the question that they asked me on stage. I remember my interview being okay. My interview at Miss Frederick / Central Maryland, I did not like it. And I knew going into it, I was like, this isn't going to be good. I felt like I didn't like it. It was one of the worst interviews. And it wasn't even fully me. It was like, I felt like the judges weren't happy to speak to me. They weren't like, oh, we're excited to get to know you. They were more like, why do you want to be like, where are you coming from? And I just did not like it. I was like, oh, I don't feel welcomed here. So this interview, it went fine. I felt fine about it. Like I said, I felt like I did everything fine. I just remember being on this. Only thing I remember is that the stage was smaller than I would have liked for my talent. And I was the only dancer. Everybody else was like a singer or they play instrument or whatever, or monologues and stuff. So the size of the stage didn't really matter for anybody but me. But I was like, I really can't do my talent as full out as I would like to because the stage was just really small. But there were no major mishaps. Like I've had worse things happen before. I'm not even doing my talent like to the best of my abilities because I'm injured, which is a whole nother thing that like mess with my mind, literally mess with my body. Like my hamstring is still not 100% and I don't even know what's wrong with it. Like it's a different type of pain that I've never had before. Anyway, long story short, we were all competing for one title and I didn't walk away with the crown. I was first runner up. I didn't even receive any prizes, like not top interview, not top nothing. And they gave away like 10 different prizes and I left empty handed and I was like, this was a waste of my time. Like I literally could have been recuperating from the emotional drama that I won't call it trauma, but like just the emotion that I put myself through the week before with the pageant. And I was like, I wouldn't have done all of this. Like, and it's a lot to compete in a local because there's like paperwork and there's so much. I was like, and it's also my first week at work. I'm like, so I don't even have the mental capacity to really like take on something else. I was over it. I quit pageants. That's how I felt. I literally left and I said, you know what? I shouldn't have competed here today. I'm quitting. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. This is no longer fun. Like competing in pageants is only fun if you win. Or close. But I mean, first runner up is close, sure. First runner up at Miss Maryland is acceptable to me. First runner up at a local is not acceptable to me. Not after coming third runner up to Miss Maryland the year before. No. I was like, this isn't what I want for myself. Like some people were like, you should be happy, first runner up, congratulations. Like, thanks. But no, I'm like, this just isn't it for me. To top it all off, you guys, I was vlogging all of this. I hope I can make it into a vlog, but I left my vlog camera. Like when I tell you I wasn't even mad after the pageant. I was like, what the heck am I doing? Like, what the heck just happened? And I was like, I'm ready to go home. That's all I felt. I literally was like, I'm ready to go home. Like I drove an hour there. No, I probably drove 2 hours there. Rockville is like an hour and a half, but like with traffic or whatever. So I drove 2 hours there. I was like, it's a long drive back. My family wasn't there. I didn't win. What am I doing here? I'm going home. Like I was just like, I'm ready to go home and get something to eat. I'm like packing up all my stuff. I put my vlog camera on top of the car while I'm packing my car up. Drive away. And that is why, ladies and gentlemen, you guys are listening to this podcast or you're watching it as a webcam podcast because I have not had my vlog camera. And that was the second week in April or the third. So I haven't had a vlog camera in about a month and a half, which is a big reason why you haven't had any content from me. I literally haven't had a camera. And I called the location where it was at, and I was like, y'all, at least just let me know if you see broken like camera pieces on the floor out there. Like, did I lose it? Did somebody steal it? I don't think that somebody, like, the camera is gone. And I was so mad too, because like I had the SD card. I was like, it's one thing if I have to buy another camera, that's fine. But that SD card, I had been recording so many things on that SD card. It'll make me cry if I think about how much was on that SD card that I have just been like procrastinating, because I've been creating that's the problem. I've been creating content. I just haven't like sat down, edited a lot of it. So but now it's like a lot of it is all gone. And I'm still very gutted about it, and I haven't bought a new camera yet, but I told myself, okay, I need to stop letting it stop me. I'm like, you can easily film your podcast with your webcam. You still have your mic and stuff. Or I'm like, or you could just do an audio one. So I don't know. We'll see how that ends up turning. We'll see how this ends up turning out. But yeah, tragic. I do not have a camera at this time. And then to top it all off, literally while I was there that competition day, I got waitlisted from the Morehouse program. So the next day I was crying all day. And the next day was Easter. So I went to like the same church that I went to in Columbia. They had one that was in PG County. So I went there, and it was like it was in the neighborhood of my grandmother's house. So I like that day was just so sad for me, because I was just so sad from so many different angles, so many different aspects. Like, of course, sad that I lost the pageant, but also just kind of like not even understanding why fully. Like, why am I now unsuccessful in something that I once was successful in? Like, I thought that I was good at this. I thought that, you know, this was going to make me happy. I was like, I genuinely was already at a bad place kind of in life. And I was like, well, this is something that should make me happy. Like, I need to do more things that make me happy. Pageants make me happy. That's a great reason to compete. And instead, they made me super unhappy. Like, I was even thinking, which is, again, so mean to myself. We have to do better at this. But I was like, I feel like my grandmother was my good luck charm, because y'all know, like, she was my biggest fan when it came to pageants. And I felt like, you know, this is my first time competing when she's not here. And I feel different. I don't feel the same. I don't feel like it's hitting the same. Like, something's just off. And I'm like, maybe she was my good luck charm, and now that she's not here, it's just not hitting the same. Like, it just, I no longer have, you know, that spark or that charm that I carried with me, because I knew that she was cheering for me. So yeah, that whole next day I was crying, and I like went to my grandmother's house to talk to my grandpa, because like I said, I was just really sad, and I would have loved to, I know she would have been there for me. Or, you know, just, it's so hard to try and think about like what she would say in the situations all the time. Sometimes I'm like, I just wish that you were here so you could tell me yourself. And like I said, I was at an all-time low, but my grandfather is also obviously grieving, and he has a really hard time with, like, I guess just people who remind him of my grandmother, which is me. And so he didn't even answer the door for me. That's a whole nother situation. I didn't even get to talk to my grandfather. I keep wanting to say grandfather. I didn't even end up talking to my grandpa that day. So yeah, it was a really sad time. And like directly after it though, I did receive an outpour of encouraging messages like, please don't quit. Please try again. I believe in you. And I mean, they were coming from everybody, like people who I didn't know, people who I did know, people who I used to compete with, people who I just competed with, people like everywhere. And I'm like, people knew, like y'all knew, because I didn't even say it. It's not even like I announced it, I'm quitting. But in my mind, like I was like, oh, I'm done. Like, no, thank you. No, thank you. That's literally all it was. I was like, no, thank you. No, thank you. I don't really wish to do this anymore. And somehow with everybody just like reaching out to me, I was like, I'll try one last time. And this pageant was Miss Allegheny / Miss Cumberland. This was the last local of the season. That whole week was a hot mess. I'll have to go into more detail at a later time because this is getting long. But that I ended up having to switch the Mean Girls on Broadway show. Instead of going on Saturday, I ended up going on Thursday, which made the week super hectic because I had a lot of deadlines that I needed to do. And although I ended up winning a title that day, I was upset at myself because the next weekend they ended up doing like a digital sweeps. And if you're familiar with MAO, like sweeps is like the last time where you can win a title. Like everybody comes and it's like it's a big pageant in the sense of like, if you did not receive a local title with one of the competitions so far in the season, everybody can come back and compete again. And instead of giving away 2 or 1 title, they'll give away like 4 or 5 titles. So it's like the last sweep of local titles given away. This year, I believe all Miss America organization states did their sweeps virtually, and that was the next weekend, and they gave away a title of Miss Prince George's County. And I loved that title. I didn't get to have it for that long. We'll go into more detail about it later, but I ended up winning the title of Miss Cumberland. So that was like good. It was good. So I'm currently Miss Cumberland. That is the title that I have. And so now I'm preparing for Miss Maryland, which is in June. Miss Maryland week starts June 20th and the final competition is June 25th. If you guys are following me on my pageant Instagram at Miss Cumberland MD, you've seen that I've been doing as much as I can because like I said, I've been planning since like January, February to have my new social impact, but I didn't earn a title until the last week of April. So now I'm trying to do everything that I've had planned to do in the next 2 months leading up to Miss Maryland, just to show that like, I'm capable and I'm capable of being Miss Maryland, capable of doing the work, that my social impact initiative isn't just what I want to do, what I plan to do, but what I currently am doing. And the reason why I'm like semi-sad about the title that I earned was just simply because it was a vanity moment. Like I wanted so bad for me to have that moment of me winning on stage that I sacrificed what I probably should have done in the situation. Like my hair wasn't done. I didn't get the highest title that night. I'm very grateful for the title. I'm happy, but I think that I was already kind of just like upset that I had to be there competing for my 3rd time around. I don't know how to explain it without sounding like, oh my God, like I didn't even want that title. Like I won, but I didn't win the title I want, because at the end of the day, like you have to be grateful. There are people who wanted to compete at Miss Maryland and they're not able to. And I wanted to share this because I didn't show all of that on Instagram. You guys didn't see any of it. I didn't post anything until I won my title as Miss Cumberland. And I had like my Morehouse brother and he was kind of like, oh, like Brelynn won another title. Like, of course she did. And I'm like, you have no idea literally how hard I had to work for this title. Like I was told no multiple times. It took it didn't just take me not quitting to win the title. Like that was a big part of it, but it also took like a lot of like mental courage and strength that I did not have. And I had to pull from the depths of my soul. And like, it took a lot for me to now sit here and say that I'm Miss Cumberland. And I think that a lot of times people just see things on Instagram, it's the highlight reel. Like, of course it didn't show every weekend, like, oh, I got first runner up, oh, blah, blah, blah. Because I was kind of just like there was just too much going on to really fully comprehend enough to share it. But yeah, I think in general, where I'm going at right now, leading up to the Miss Maryland competition, is that I'm really just in my head, because I feel like if multiple girls have overscored me at the local level, that there's a great chance that they'll overscore me at the state level and that I won't win. And this is different for everybody. And, there's always like this age old quote that's like, different judge, different day. Like, just because you didn't win this local doesn't mean that you wouldn't win states. One of my favorite things is that when I didn't win my second local, somebody on the Miss Maryland board, shout out to Tammy, she she saw me, like she looked in my eyes and she grabbed my hands and she was like, I just want everybody to know, because she's on the board, she's the producer, but she was a previous Miss Maryland. She was like, the year that I won Miss Maryland, I did not win my first local that year. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank God. Like, because to me, when I didn't win the first local, I was like, oh crap, like there's no way I can be Miss Maryland if I didn't win the local. Like that's not. And then you didn't win your second local, like girl, you were washed up, like it's not happening. And I talked about this before, but like as a Black woman who is trying to break this streak of there not being a Black Miss Maryland in 17, 18 years, like I know that it has to be undeniable, indisputable. Like I have to be the best person there, because if it's even like a, they'll give it to somebody else, because that's just the way that politics and pageantry work as a Black woman. And so I've already kind of like counted myself out leading up to the competition, because I'm like, you didn't win 2 locals in a row, but I have 2 months. I had 2 months. Now I got a month. But I've been putting in work in order to be that undeniable, indisputable winner, because I was a different person at my local than I was in my state competition both years. So I know that I can make a lot of adjustments. And if I just make a few tweaks, I'm just going to try my best. I'm just going to try my best and hope that this is my year, and not get so stuck in like the fact that I was unsuccessful in the local season so many times impact the way that states can go. I know that was a very, very long segment, but I think a big part of what I've been up to while I've been gone has been pageants. So that's a really deep dive into my pageant diary. You literally just read multiple pages out of it. So that's the update on that. And the Monday and Tuesday after winning the pageant that I did win, Miss Cumberland, I ended up having an interview for another post-bac program. And I'm not going to say the name for this one just yet, because I'm like still waiting to play out my options, but I'll end up telling you guys eventually. So just stay tuned. The point is that I literally don't know what's going to go on in my life in the next 6 months. Like, it's possible that I'll still be here in Maryland, or at least still in the DMV area for another year. And now that like my worst fear is happening, like me not getting into medical school and me having to like figure out something for another year, I'm just trying to figure out like if it was ever in the cards for me to like leave Maryland at this time. Like, is there a reason that I need to be here? Because manifesting my life in Atlanta, it didn't work. Like it didn't work. It doesn't seem to be working right now. I'll go more in depth with an update on my plans with school and everything. But just to be honest, like life has just had me so wrapped up that I just don't know what next year will look like for me. I don't know what my next month will look like. And this is completely out of my comfort zone. If you guys know me, like I said, I'm like, we're on plan D. Like, I'm like, okay, what are we doing in January 2023? Like, I'm usually 5 steps ahead of myself, but I'm learning, because I am a work in progress, to literally let go and let God and just surrender, because ultimately like things are going to work out according to his plan. And the Bible says that if we believe, it will be exceedingly and abundantly more than I could ever dream, ask, or imagine. So it's just really interesting, because here we are and the season of uncertainty continues. But this time I'm doing it like with a surrendering posture, because I'm genuinely like at my wit's end and I can't try to guide myself any longer. That's where the title of this podcast comes from, Arresting My Assumptions. I listened to this bomb sermon, and I'm going to leave it here in the Kingdom Keys. So I could win Miss Maryland next month, and that could make my year look one way. I could get into a program here or very far from here, or I could do my own thing. I could move. I could stay here. Like, there are so many variables, but instead of trying to control it all, I'm just buckling in for the ride. So let's get into some Kingdom Keys about trusting God, because I listened to the sermon by Darius Daniels, and that's what inspired the title of this podcast, Arresting My Assumptions.
And for some of you, you are wondering like, Lord, how much more humility and breaking do I need? And God's like, it's not because you're bad. It's because your calling is so great that it requires a certain kind of person. So Joseph's got to feel confused because he's like, now once I got out of the pit, God, I thought I was good. Why do I feel like you teasing me? Why do I feel like you've got me on this roller coaster? So he in prison, upset. It's a nightmare. But I want you to see how he manages this nightmare season. Because you manage nightmare seasons by managing you. You can't manage the season. The only thing you can manage is you in it. When you're having a nightmare season, do you still work your gift? Did you hear what I just said? Yeah, will you work your gift when you're mad? Will you work your gift when you're frustrated? Will you work your gift when you're confused? Will you work your gift when you're hurt and disappointed? Because some of us start pouting when we have pain and we don't perform our purpose. Did you hear what I just said? How many of us would have been working our gift sitting in a prison? We would have been pouting. We would have been upset. Helping people that can't help him. Because some of us only want to use our gift for Pharaoh. But he used this gift in the middle of a nightmare season on people that could do absolutely nothing for him, not realizing that sometimes God connects you with people not for where they are, but for where they're going. Because one of those men got out of prison, and one of those men started working for Pharaoh, and a Pharaoh eventually had a dream, and he remembered there was a man in prison that interpreted my dream. He can interpret yours. Dreams have seasons that feel like nightmares. And it's those seasons and circumstances that make you question if you saw correctly. But you don't have a dream from God if you never questioned it. See, there it is. Y'all missed what I just said. Yeah. You don't. If you hadn't gone through a season where you question, did I hear correctly? Did I see this accurately? Because there are always components, circumstances, and seasons of the dream that you don't see. Usually God will not reveal them on the front end. Because watch this. There is no revelation you can receive without experience that makes the inconvenience worth it. He's saying, I'm trusting you to trust me. I'm trusting you to trust me in seasons that feel like nightmares.
I'm going to go ahead and end the podcast here because I know it's been a lot and we have much more to catch up on in later podcast episodes. So make sure that you are subscribed. Subscribe to the podcast, especially if you're listening. I know it's been a while, but if you subscribe, you'll know when I post, okay? Because it may not be every week, but when I post, you'll know. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. You can do so on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you're not already watching the pod, don't forget there are accompanying video podcasts on my YouTube channel, Beauty and Brains. So join me over there and subscribe to that channel as well. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Brelynn Hunt. You can also follow my pageant Instagram at Miss Cumberland MD, or visit my website, BrelynnHunt.com, for weekly podcast updates or to contact me to share your story. Until next time, be sure to live each day to the fullest because you only live once, and give yourself some grace. We are all just a work in progress. Another episode down. I promise it won't be that long before our next one. I'll talk to you guys next time.